story time. Okay, so I was walking through the streets of Roma this morning, Roma, Mexico City, and I had a memory, which is of this man who is a pastor at a church here that I used to go to in Roma a couple of years ago. And he kicked me out of the church for a very silly reason. From when I first started going there, I just was very upfront with him. I just was very kind with him and very upfront about my beliefs, because the main difference between me and most of the non-denominational Christians that I grew up with is that I don't believe in pastors and I don't believe in sermons. And other than that, I believe in Jesus, and I consider myself a Christian, and I really value the example of love that he set for us. So those are the two main differences. And so I told this guy, hey, I want to be a part of this church. I want to get involved. I even want to help in the kids ministry. But I just want you to know up front that I don't believe in pastors or sermons. And and he took great offense to that, which mildly understandable. But not really, because there's a lot of people who come to church who are atheists and have different views, and they're there for whatever reason. I wasn't being disrespectful. I was just telling them, actually, I wanted to serve in the kids ministry during the sermon, and so that I wouldn't have to go to the sermon, But yeah, that's what he took offense to, and it just blew up. It just blew up, and he just got super upset about it. And he's one of those guys who basically believes he's the Pope, and what he believes, his interpretation of the Bible is the truth, and everybody else is wrong. And I've met many pastors with this kind of papal complex, but this guy definitely had it the worst. And so he kicked me out of the church, said I was not welcome there. And then, so I started going to another church in Coyoacan, which is miles away. And maybe 2 months later, a friend of mine from that church told me that this other pastor, there's a bunch of pastors and Christian leaders in Mexico City. And by the way, this pastor in Roma, he's a white guy from California, so he's not even a Mexican or anything. So that would actually be a little bit of a different story. I respect the local culture, it might be different, whatever, but he's from my culture, and still has this weird attitude. So anyway, there's this WhatsApp group of pastors and Christian leaders, and he actually warned all of them, watch out for this guy. It's really? And so I found out about that through the grapevine in this other church I was going to, miles away. And obviously that made me feel incredibly unwelcome in the Protestant church in Mexico City. And it was just a really bad thing that this guy did. So anyway, so I'm walking down the street this morning, and this guy comes to my mind, and I'm like, what would I do if I saw this guy on the street, And first thing I would do for sure is I would just call out nemesis, enemy. The question would be whether I'd be doing it in jest or seriously, because this is a pretty bad guy. But if I have a sense of humor about it, I could just make it funny, And anyway, but then the next question for me was, have I forgiven this guy? And is it still affecting me in some way? And then I just was thinking about that a little bit more. Well, actually, also another thought I had was should I challenge this guy to physical combat? To resolve our differences. This guy hates me. Give him a chance to hit me in the face or something. It's stupid, it's a guy thing, but that's, it's a stupid thought, kind of, in a way, but it's not, because that thought comes from somewhere. So I had to ask myself, why again would I be even more remotely interested in that? Obviously, this is not going to happen, but and that was where the question about forgiveness came up. So So I think I'm not sure if I've fully forgiven him. If I think it still upsets me a little bit. But then I thought, maybe it's not entirely 100% about forgiveness. I mean, this is a situation where, like, there's situations where in relationships where we can forgive each other and we can reconcile and it's going to be good. But in this case, this guy is very obstinate and stubborn and pretty much, I don't think he wants a relationship with me. I don't think he wants to reconcile with me. And so forgiveness kind of takes on a different place in that situation. And I think it's essential. I mean, it's essential for me, like, whether now or whether I'm not ready for it and it's in the future, I need to forgive this guy. But also I think it's a question about, like, not just forgiveness, but like understanding, because maybe I don't even have to forgive him if I just, like, am not surprised by his behavior in the first place. And this kind of stuff does happen. People kind of do crazy things and they have crazy ideas, and that happens. So I think that if I just kind of accept the situation and say it's okay, like, I shouldn't be surprised by his behavior, it's just the way it is, then maybe it's good enough to just believe that my goodness in this world is greater than his badness. I mean, because there's part of me that wants to protect people from people like that. But when you think about it, when you do the math, if there was 50% of the world was like him and 50% of the world was like, well, I'm not a perfect person, but, like, in this situation was accepting of the situation, was forgiving, and not going to have animosity towards the person, and everything. If 50% of the person was like that, if 50% of the world was like that, then that 50% of the world would win out, I think, and it just would be more powerful, and so, I mean, yes, there's a time to defend people from other people and all that, but obviously not in this case. So for me, I think that's good enough for me for now. But yeah, it's unfortunate that people come to believe things like that, and people who come into places of power where they abuse it. But I don't have to be involved in that. What I get involved in will be enough for me. I don't need that. I don't need that to be fixed. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to say.